The British Empire was the largest empire in history, spanning the globe at its height in the 19th and early 20th centuries. It encompassed a diverse range of territories, from the colonies of North America to the British Raj in India, and from the Caribbean islands to the African continent. This essay will explore the history of the British Empire, including its growth, administration, and ultimate decline. The beginnings of the British Empire can be traced back to the 16th century, when England began to establish colonies in North America. The first permanent English settlement in North America was established in 1607 at Jamestown, Virginia, and over the next century, other colonies were established in what is now the United States and Canada. The British also began to establish colonies in the Caribbean, including Jamaica and Barbados. In the 18th century, the British Empire began to expand beyond North America and the Caribbean. The Seven Years' War, 1756 to 1763, saw Britain gain control of Canada and several Caribbean islands from France, and the British East India Company gained control of large parts of India. In the late 18th and early 19th centuries, the British also began to expand their influence in Africa, with the establishment of the Cape Colony in what is now South Africa. By the mid-19th century, the British Empire was the dominant global power, with control over a quarter of the world's population and a fifth of its land area. The empire's economic power was also immense, with Britain controlling a significant portion of the world's trade and industry. The administration of the British Empire was complex, with different territories governed in different ways. In some colonies, such as Canada and Australia, the British established self-governing institutions, while in others, such as India, direct British rule was imposed. The British also established a system of colonial administration, with officials sent from Britain to govern the colonies and maintain law and order. The administration of the British Empire was not without controversy, however. In many colonies, the British imposed their own culture and values on the indigenous population, often at the expense of local traditions and customs. The exploitation of natural resources and labor in the colonies also led to economic and social inequality, with profits from colonial trade often flowing back to Britain. The 19th century saw several significant events that would ultimately lead to the decline of the British Empire. The first of these was the Indian Rebellion of 1857, in which Indian soldiers and civilians rebelled against British rule. While the rebellion was ultimately crushed, it led to a re-evaluation of British policy in India, and the establishment of a new administrative system that granted more power to Indian officials. The Boer War, 1899 to 1902, in South Africa was another significant event, in which the British fought against a group of Boer settlers who had established two independent republics. While the British ultimately won the war, it exposed the limits of British military power and raised questions about the morality of imperial expansion. The First World War, 1914 to 1918, also had a significant impact on the British Empire. The war saw Britain and its colonies fight together as a unified force, but it also led to significant social and economic changes in Britain itself. The war effort drained resources from the empire and exposed the limits of British power. The interwar period saw a shift in British policy towards the empire, with an increased focus on granting self-rule to colonies. In 1931, the Statute of Westminster granted full self-governance to Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, while other colonies were granted greater autonomy. However, the empire was still a significant force in the world, and the Second World War, 1939 to 1945, saw the empire once again fight together. After World War II, the British Empire began to decline rapidly. Many colonies gained their independence, often after violent struggle, and by the 1960s, the empire had largely dissolved. The process of decolonization continued into the 1970s, with Britain retaining only a few overseas territories such as Bermuda and the Falkland Islands.